accurate information.
Examines problems closely.
Examines the evidence.
Analyzes.
A critical thinker is open-minded. Has a sense of curiosity.
Tries to figure things out.
Raises critical questions. Considers a variety of possible viewpoints.
Critical thinker resists manipulation.
Decides to be a good thinker.
Weighs the influence of bias and motives. Does not reject unpopular views out of hand.
A critical thinker separates reason from emotion.
Evaluates. Listens carefully to others.
Critical thinking is important.
Something that we all can do better. Will help us grow intellectually.
Critical thinking is the #1 survival skill for the human race.
Hi, my name is Shelley Schutte, and this is my presentation over critical thinking. The video you just watched, I thought that was very appropriate for this presentation because it showed people of all ages defining critical thinking. Today what we're going to focus on is critical thinking for our preschoolers, and just if our little ones should be able to critically think at this age. And the answer to me is yes, and we will go through why and how they can do that. So first thing is, what is critical thinking? It is the ability to make good decisions and to clearly explain the foundations for those decisions. I did put on a picture here, and I thought it was just funny because it's so easy these days just to tell the kids to look it up on the internet or on a computer somehow. And critical thinking is definitely more than that. So I thought that was pretty neat. How young is too young? Well, preschoolers I think are very capable, and it is shown that the very young children are fully capable of learning to use organized analysis to solve problems. So they are capable of critically thinking at this age. The benefits of critical thinking for this age would be it builds self-esteem, it lays a foundation for formal education, and it develops a lifelong love of learning. So all these things are very important. Setting the scene, that's making appropriate material and classroom for your preschoolers to critically think. A well-designed preschool activity can be stimulating, engaging, and fun, but the material must be colorful, easily understood, sequenced in small steps, game-like, and solvable in a short period. Now we do need to go over the 6 major thinking skills, and these are the things we're going to go through in depth, but right now we're just going to look at them: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And we will start with knowledge. Knowledge is remembering or recalling appropriate previously learned information to draw out factual answers. And I put on the right side kind of just either phrases or words that will help you get the kids to think in a more critical way. I'll give you kind of sample questions so you kind of know how to use these words and phrases. So for knowledge, a sample question would be as simple as how many eggs in a dozen? That would be a knowledge question for supporting critical thinking. Next is comprehension, and comprehension is grasping or understanding the meaning of informal material. And a sample question for comprehension would be explain how an egg becomes a chicken. So that would be an example of a question that you could use for comprehension. Next, we'll talk about application. And application is applying previously learned information to new and unfamiliar situations. And some of the words that you could use is demonstrate, apply, classify, show, solve, and experiment. And application, the sample question would be, what do an egg and the shape of a globe have in common? That would be a sample question for application. Next is analysis. And analysis is breaking down information into parts or examining information. And the sample question for analysis would be, what is the difference between eggs laid by a frog and a chicken? So that would be an example for that. Let's see, and synthesis is our next one, and that is applying prior knowledge and skills to combine elements into a pattern not clearly there before. And some of the words or phrases would be combine, substitute, design, rearrange, create, or a what-if question. And next is evaluation, and this is our last one we're going to talk about today. And its sample question would be, what do egg-laying animals have in common? And that would kind of be a big sum-up kind of part to the thinking process. Now I was going to give you an example of critically thinking for preschoolers and an activity that they could do. And this is a worksheet that I found online, and it is, the instructions for this is to have the preschoolers draw a line connecting each blue figure without touching any other color. There could be more than one answer here. So that's kind of what critical thinking is all about, is looking at all the possibilities. So that would be a example of what to do to have to support critical thinking in the preschool age. Now I would like to show an example of discouraging critical thinking in preschool age. This comes from the popular TV program for preschoolers, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. It's on Disney Channel, and in one of their shows, Minnie has a question for the preschoolers at home, and she asks, which box would the bow be in if it was in a box? In one of these boxes, 1, 2, or 3. So there's obviously a box that's too small for the bow. There's a box that seems to be the same size, just fits perfectly, and then there's a 3 that's much bigger than the bow. So Minnie wants to see what your answer is. Minnie has an answer herself, and let's see what Minnie picked. Minnie said on the program that box number 2 was the right answer, and she said only box number 2. So that's not supporting critical thinking, because as we can all see, the bow could be in box 3 too. It just wouldn't fit exactly the way Minnie wants it to, but that's a possibility as well, and that would be encouraging critical thinking for preschoolers if you showed them that there is more than one possibility that where the bow could have gone. So as we sum up, critical thinking is for our little ones too. And that is my presentation about critical thinking with preschoolers, and that they are capable of doing it. And I had great references along with our book, of course, that always gives good information. I used many websites about preschool and critical thinking, and I thought they were very helpful. So thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you.